to a brand new episode of Sequel Rights, the podcast where we take a look at the franchises that make you go, they made how many of those? And we give each and every sequel a fair trial. My name is Justin Camps, and I'm here with
Elizabeth Helly
and
Tyler Hymanson.
And oh boy, we have a crazy one for you guys this week. We are into Basket Case 2.
No subtitle.
No subtitle, just the number. That's it.
This movie speaks for itself.
Yes. We're still in the midst of Halloween times here, so we got another spooky, gory horror movie for you guys.
That's right.
We've assembled as a group of unique individuals to talk about Basket Case 2.
Yes. Written and directed by Frank Henenlotter, same as the first one, and this one came out in 1990.
8 years after, right?
Yeah. The other one was 82, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, I can't wait for you guys to see this trailer.
Well, they're born Siamese twins.
It's been a while,
They get cut apart, kill some doctors.
but now they're back.
So where are they?
We're friends. We can help you.
Your favorite twins have returned.
Now I understand you feel comfortable sleeping in a basket.
They found some new friends.
There are others here like you. Others who have been hurt and need to be hidden and sheltered.
And they're up to no good again.
You're empty!
I understand your pain, but ripping the faces off people may not be in your best interest.
Oh my god. There's so many of them. There's freaks everywhere.
But even though it's been 8 years in real life, in the movie, it's been no years.
Yeah, so we were all really curious about how they're going to continue this. The first one pretty much told a complete story. They died at the end.
Yep.
Game over.
But the movie does the classic movie thing of, hey, here's what happened in the first movie.
Yep.
As a news report.
This one I didn't mind as much because it wasn't like showing the entire freaking first movie.
Yeah,
it was just like
after.
the end.
And I liked that Casey made a little cameo in the news report.
Yeah, that
like
was
being
cool.
like, Duane was a nice guy. Oh, it's so sad. Like,
And she
the
was
same
like,
actress.
she was like, it was his brother. Can you believe that shit?
This movie picks up right where the last one left off.
Yeah.
So they're rushed to the hospital.
Yeah.
And they are alive. I love the you were talking about the news report. There's a scene where we meet these two new characters and they're like watching the news. But for some reason they keep like flipping the channel and each channel tells like the next part in the story. I was like, I want the magic TV that goes that tells me the entire story of what I'm watching. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So we see them in the hospital, and we get to see Belial for the first time in this movie, and he looks completely different.
They have upped their game in this movie.
I disagree. I felt like he looked worse. I did not like it.
I thought it was so much more awesome.
I liked it way better in the first movie.
That one was just a puppet. This one's like animatronic robot.
And sometimes it has a face.
Yeah, well that's for one scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, his arms are like off.
Well, like
so this one's an actual
askew.
puppet.
His proportions changed, drastically.
Yeah, so like I guess in the fall, one arm like went to the top of his body and one arm went to the bottom.
This movie has two things. They want you to believe that, and they even show footage of him from the first movie.
Yeah,
where you can tell like, wow, he does not look the same at all. And also, Duane has aged 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I guess we don't get to it till a little bit later on, but I guess they cut his hair at the
Yeah,
hospital.
mullets aren't cool anymore, guys.
Well, maybe he had some brain damage, so they had to shave it off to get get to his head. Or
I don't even think he was in there for that long.
Yeah. I don't know, but I liked the new Belial because it was like clearly like all way more articulated than the last one. It's not like just a guy with his hands in a puppet or something. This was
I guess,
one
but
that's
for
like
some reason, like the whatever
controlled.
material was made out of, like looked more fake to me.
Yeah.
Like less like an actual blob of skin and more like
Prosthetics.
fabricated.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
I guess,
But yeah, now with more points of articulation. Like
Yes,
this is the
yes,
better
true.
Belial
Yeah.
action figure.
his eyes still glow.
Fair enough.
They do.
And now he has like Spider-Man-like capabilities where he can cling to the wall.
He was on the wall in the first movie too.
Yeah, he was.
Like clinging like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
When Needleman comes in, he's like on the wall.
Yeah.
That's the first time you ever see him. He's like that.
Yeah,
on the
That's true.
wall.
My bad.
But
Yeah, it's part of Sony's Spider-Verse.
So yeah, he kills some nurse, just to get things started.
yeah, kills the cop, kills the nurse. I love the scene of like. There's this reporter trying to get in to talk to Duane, and like in the background you see him sneaking around and like getting out of the hospital.
He's walking around even though his leg's in a full cast from his upper thigh.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care how sturdy that cast is. That would be a horrible pain. Like, you could not walk around
Yeah.
like that. Like, I recently sprained my ankle and I was like, completely unable to walk.
I think what's happening in that scene is that Belial's controlling him.
Oh yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't get that. Okay.
Well, because so we had previously been introduced to these new characters, Granny Ruth and Susan, and they seem like they're aware of him, for some
Right.
reason. They're like, we have to go. And just as Duane and Belial are escaping, they pull up in a van, and she's like, "Duane, like, come with us. We can help you." And he just keeps walking, and then
"Fuck you." Yeah.
and then she says, "Belial," and then he stops.
Yeah.
and that's what makes me think like that.
Yeah, and he has,
Belial
like, a
had
crazed look on
taken
his
over
face.
him.
Yeah, I think that.
I thought that they were just like, holy shit, how does she know Belial's name? Because nobody knew.
Yeah,
other than
I know.
Duane.
I think that Belial woke up and was moving his body.
I think so too, because like when Belial kills the cop the first time, Duane is just standing in the
That's true,
background.
that's
like,
true.
Like a zombie.
I just figured that like they were like, screw you, we don't care who you are. But then when she said Belial, they were like, wait, how do you know that name? And then she's like, I knew your aunt. And they were like, how do you know we had an aunt? And yeah. they go with her.
There was a brief aside when this reporter's trying to get into the hospital to talk to them, and she's trying to bribe somebody. And
This was so funny.
And the security guard like takes it, looks like he's going to take it, and then goes on like a 2-minute soliloquy about about why he's not going to take a bribe. And it's like, it's like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to be angry about
This
it.
is going to make things worse between us.
I love and he's not a great actor,
Yeah.
but like he's trying so hard about it. It's hilarious.
It's like I love the way that like characters talk in these movies. Like they keep going on these long rants. Like there's another scene where they're interacting with like this shopkeeper or
Right.
something like later in the movie where it's the same kind of thing. It's just like a weird. Yeah, it's just like they're not super trained actors or something.
Yeah,
so they
I think
have
that's
this,
what it is.
They have this weird like staggered delivery. It's kind
Yeah.
of funny. I like it.
So Duane and Belial wake up at the house of Granny Ruth. And they're just like, okay, yeah, whatever, Duane. And then they're all like, yeah, Belial. And they go find him in the creepy doll room.
That was an awesome scene.
They've put him in the nursery, basically.
So we've got like Annie Ross playing Granny Ruth, and
She's
like,
great. She knows what movie she's in. She's hilarious.
Yeah, she's she's walking back and forth like in this room, and you keep thinking like Belial's gonna show up in this basket or show up in this bag, this box full of dolls or something. And just the way it's shot, you're like, where is he gonna be? And then it turns out he was on the rocking horse.
I was crossing my fingers the whole time for an E.T. like
Yeah, me
situation
too.
where he was in the
Like-
stuffed animals. I was like,
Yeah,
please
that's
be in
what-
the dolls,
that's what I
please be
thought
in the
was gonna
stuffed
happen.
animals. And he wasn't. I was so sad.
The scene is played interesting because she's talking to him. This movie has wildly inconsistent in terms of what the characters want and what they need. So you kind of get the impression that Granny Ruth, like early on, is going to use them in some way. You kind of don't know what her motivations are, and so this scene is being played at like she knows that she's in danger just being in the room with him.
Yeah.
and so she's playing it like she's like, I'm your friend. Like she's trying to placate it, but she's also like aggressively looking for him.
Yeah.
which makes it seem like that she's not someone to be fucked with.
She's
Like,
definitely not scared. I don't think she's
not
of him.
scared, but she respects that he could choose to kill her, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting. It's a well done scene.
Yeah, and this is like the first person ever, other than Duane, that we've seen actually like speak to Belial and earn his trust.
Yeah, like he's a normal person.
Yeah.
which is really cool. Mm-hmm. So he comes out, and then she takes him up to the attic to meet all the other children in the house.
Yep.
And this is where the movie is like, what is going on?
So you're like, this is not going to be like the first one.
This
You
is
realize.
insane. So she goes up and she's like, children, we have a new visitor.
Yeah.
And they all come out, and it's like all these people in these crazy prosthetic
Prosthetics.
masks.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is insane. one guy looks like a mouse. One guy's got
Yeah.
like 27
I
noses.
have the roster whenever
let's
you
hear
want to go over it. Okay,
Do it.
so we've got Worm Man, who has worms coming out of the side of his face.
Gross.
We have Mouseface, who kind of looks like one of those goblins from Harry Potter, even though he's a mouse. We've got Huge Arthur, who's the guy that looks like a manatee, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
We have Half Moon, who's the guy that is a half moon.
Yep.
He looks like
Moonhead.
Matt tonight if his face was made from a dick. That's what he looks like. He's gonna sell you a McRib.
Yeah, definitely looks like the McRib guy. We have Pearl, who is like the hammerhead, long neck girl.
Oh, right.
Yeah. We have Leon, who's got just tumors all over the side of his face. I don't know what the deal is with him. Frog Boy.
Yep.
Yes, he shows up in a funny way later on.
The funniest thing about Frog Boy is I watched this movie with subtitles, and it's just like frog croaking, like in the background of like most things.
And I have a child star checking for Frog Boy. We can do it later, though. We have Eliz, who's like the weird pillar column head girl with
Right.
the black eye skin. We got Toothy, who is long in the tooth, literally.
That one looks insane.
Yeah.
He's got this. It looks like almost like a bent piano keyboard.
It looks like if you know the Pavement album cover of Slanted and Enchanted. I think that's the album cover I'm thinking of. But it's like a bunch of crazy piano like keys like all splayed out. Like that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
like
crazy.
if Hooters piano from Captain EO was your mouth, basically. That's a reference just for me. And then Brainiac, who's the guy with like the little tiny sunglasses and he's in a wheelchair later. Platehead, who has a big old metal plate in his head. The man with 27 noses. That's his name.
Yep.
And we've got Frederick the Pinhead, which is the tall guy in the purple jacket.
Yep.
And then we have Lorenzo, who is basically
Lorenzo?
only seen in the basement, and he's like,
He
what
gets
would
his
you
own
call him?
introduction. He's just
Yeah.
like a giant mouth.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Muck from Pokemon, or like Jabba the Hutt's just his head, maybe. Yeah, like not even
It's
his
just
body.
like a mouth as a body, like
Yeah.
a long
Yeah.
banana mouth.
And I guess he was in a circus, and Grandma Ruth purchased him. But he has one of the most beautiful voices she's ever heard, and he like breaks into a stanza of
Yeah,
opera.
he's like, yellow banana.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
And everyone's like, ah.
And that's when this movie takes a hard left turn. Is when that big mouth started singing. It's like, okay,
And finally,
we're in uncharted waters
This
here.
is happening. All right.
Finally, we do the stereotypical, we're going to make this new kid feel less nervous by giving him a task. And she wants him to help Eve, who is similar to Belial, but we don't see her because she's all covered up in a blanket.
I just see eyes.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, you guys, I was hoping that you could help her feel more comfortable here. And, you know, like,
And I was like, ooh, Bride of Basket Case.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's the roster of, they call them unique individuals.
Not mutants, and this is not Professor Xavier's school.
Yeah.
Although everyone else calls them freaks, and they call her Dr. Freak.
Even the filmmakers called them the freaks.
Yeah.
When they're like they all had freak wranglers. It's funny, one of the there's only like 2 special features on the Blu-ray, and one of them is an interview with the guy who played the Half Moon.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And he was like, yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, basically they were saying like, you know, they just put on these like foam prosthetic things and they were so hot, so like each person, like anytime there was a break between takes, each of the freaks had their own like freak wrangler who would come up with a fan and try to put it in their mouth so they could like get some air. And apparently too, they weren't like allowed to say any lines because then they would have to get a
Pay
different
them
SAG
differently.
rate.
Right.
Yeah.
So they could only kind of go like they couldn't like
And
barely
they all do,
anything.
and then there's the most horrifying scene in this movie. It comes later, but I want to get into it because we're talking about the freaks. And like it kind of gets into like the nerdy, like when you start talking about like, oh, if somebody had like a half moon face, what would happen? Like, how would they eat? And they decided that they were going to answer that for all of these crazy characters because there's like a 5-minute sequence
Did
where
they
it's just
answer it though?
no, they didn't. No, it's just a bunch of people sticking whole corn cobs in their
It's like
mouths.
that dude's
Oh.
just sucking on that corn.
And I forgot to mention, because this freak is not credited or named, but there is a fucking gargoyle statue on the
Yes,
corner
right.
of the house that is apparently another freak that just stands there all the time and like moves around when
He makes
people come
weird
by.
noises like,
But he doesn't get a name or a credit or
but,
anything.
I thought that was
in
awesome.
in the universe of this movie, a human being.
Yeah. He's
Like, it's like a person.
yeah.
How did he get like that? I don't know. His parents had sex with a gargoyle, which is a statue. I don't know what's going on.
He's just in Quasimodo's imagination.
Right.
Like, yeah.
All of these freaks, like, they're so cool looking. Like, the designs are awesome. And I was just like, this is really cool.
They're 90s nightmarish. Too.
Yeah.
They do not. They are weird.
Like, they're out of.
I don't know. I thought I liked their designs better than Belial. Like, I thought they looked more like creature-like, I guess. I don't know.
They're exaggerated in a way that is bananas.
They're just like, do whatever you want with these designs.
Yeah. Like, we're no longer trying to, like, pretend that this movie has any basis in reality. Like,
yeah, it loses kind of the grittiness and, like, because I feel like that's something that the first one has because it was so low budget and because of just the it looks like it was shot on 16 millimeter.
Yeah.
And, like, New York's grimy. Like, it kind of anchors it in the real world in a way that I think is really effective. I think that this movie definitely loses that and leans into a little bit more of the crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's definitely different.
and this one's, like, often called a horror comedy.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, whereas the first one was just, like, a horror movie that had some funny moments. But this one's, like, straight up, it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy, So it's like, all right.
There's still lots of gruesome deaths.
Yeah. So after we meet all of the freaks, we flash forward 4 years later to the same reporter from before approaching her office at Judge and Jury newspaper, which is a great name for a newspaper. But the lettering on her office is made with like those rub-on letters from Michaels, and they're all like crooked. Like you can tell that somebody like put the vinyl applique on the door and was and they're all like it's completely
our department dropped the ball on that,
it was real bad. But yeah, I love the name. I want to start a magazine called Judge and Jury. Yeah. Because it's so funny. It's like it's just a comment on journalism.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they're telling her to, since she failed to get that story 4 years ago, he's like, do a 4-year reunion story and go find them, or if not, just interview a bunch of people and make up some bullshit.
Yeah. The main thrust of this whole movie is like this reporter trying to track down Duane and Belial.
Yeah,
and
the funny thing about
sending
it,
various people.
We already
after
know
them.
that they're at Grandma Ruth's house, and in this scene, the editor's like, "I don't know, do something. Like, we can offer a reward. Like, we got to get a story. We'll do it." And he's like, "I know. Call up this lady Ruth. She used to do like Dr. Freak. She used to deal with like freaks like that all the time. Like, basically, just gives her the lead immediately in the room."
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Is this where that scene where she goes to the like freak carnival thing?
Not quite yet.
Yeah, it's like after this, but it's funny because he says that he's going to offer a reward, and then at the end of the scene, she's like, "Well, if I do end up finding them, do I get the reward?" And he's like, "What reward?"
You idiots! Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that the director and writer particularly likes reporters.
Nobody likes reporters.
is
They're
the
all
vibe-
evil.
Is the vibe I got from this
Freaking
movie.
yellow journalism.
Hashtag fake news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, there's this dude who I guess has been advertising that he has Belial in a circus exhibit. So she goes there to investigate.
She calls him, and he's in the middle of. It's like I guess it's late at night, and this dude's asleep in like his long johns and has like.
Oh yeah,
the most elongated wake up routine. He's like, and he's like kind of like this hillbilly type dude.
Yeah.
He's like a Cletus the Slackjawed yokel type guy. And he's like, no, it's too late. Like, I don't want you to see him. He's like, yeah, I got Belial. Like, yeah, he's here. It's too late to come by. She's like, what if I give you $100? And then he goes, 100 smackaroos. And then,
oh boy!
And then says about 10 different 100 smackaroonies, smackadoos.
He starts dancing around like
for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's very weird.
It reminded me of Darkman's like, look at the dancing freak dance.
$100.
And then,
hot diggity.
like as soon as he hangs up,
Can you imagine?
as soon as he hangs up with the reporter, the doorbell rings, and he's like, "Oh, dang, she's here already!"
$100.
But it's Granny Ruth.
100 clams.
Granny Ruth is pissed, and she wants to know why he's been advertising that he has Belial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, she's like, "I want to see him."
Right.
Oh. And he thinks that she's the reporter, right? That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, so he's like, "Where's
that's
my
why-
$100?"
Yeah, that's why he even lets her in.
Yeah, and then of course Belial. It's just like his version of Belial is just like a bunch of bones tied together. And
Yeah,
like
I love that scene when she's looking at it like, plaster of Paris, chicken wire.
papier mache.
So yeah, like, in the back of his backyard, he basically has this whole sideshow, and like it's a whole tent, and like it's like a roadside attraction.
There's
type
no
thing.
real freaks there.
There's no real freaks. Like he's just kind of like put a bunch of stuff together, and so you're kind of walking around like this museum, and then so like she's standing there, and he's like, "Yeah, what do you think?" And then she just like breaks down all of the items that he's made this thing with.
And then she is like, I know where the real Belial is.
She's like, you owe him an apology.
Yeah.
And then so she
Go
brings in
say-
the basket
Say you're sorry.
and sets it down. And then she's personally offended that he's. It's hard to know that he's making freaks or that he's using fake freaks.
I think it's just all fake.
He's profiting off of this
What did she
idea
say?
about
She
freaks.
She said it's a sideshow mentality. Oh yeah. One of the things that I love too is but before she's still playing along, he's like, "Oh, isn't that a little big for Belial?" And he's like, "Acromegaly." Oh yeah. Emphasis on the meg. And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Acromegaly." It means he got bigger after he died.
He's just trying to explain it
Yeah.
away with bullshit.
So she calls him trash or whatever, and then he's like gets offended by that, and he leaves the basket. She leaves the basket and walks out, and he's like, "I'm not going to be fooled. I'm not trash. Who she's calling trash? I won't be fooled." As he just keeps walking closer and closer to this basket, he's like, "It's going to be empty. I know it's empty. I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid." And then he opens it up, and sure enough, Belial attack.
Yep. And by the time the reporter gets there, she finds that the guy's dead.
Somehow
and freaks
Belial
out, yeah.
carried the body into the mermaid tank.
Yeah.
Which I guess he can do now. He's got bigger arms.
Yeah, he's now got like a Michael Myers like mentality where he's like, I gotta leave the body in a funny way. Like,
It's my calling card. It's my shtick.
yeah. So
It has to be a delightfully ironic way.
there's a scene where some creepy bar owner is harassing Susan, the granddaughter, and he's like, "What, you think you're too good for me?" Like, it's so stupid.
This is
And,
that
like
other scene I was
toxic
talking about,
masculinity.
yeah.
Like, he's like, "What, you and your grandma need all that food? Like, how come you never come out? How come you never come to my bar? Why won't you have sex with me?" You know, he's just like, "You're a bitch."
My
Like,
favorite thing that he says to her, like he starts out nice, and then he gets really, really aggressive, and then as she's walking away, he's like, "Come in, I'll make you a margarita. I'll put an umbrella in it. I'll bake you a salad."
he said that. I wasn't even paying attention.
He says,
by
"I'll
then.
bake you a salad," and it's like, what the fuck? And he's like,
Yeah.
"I'll bake you a salad. I'll put cherries in it." Like,
Also roofies, yeah.
it's like,
things.
I'm not coming into your establishment because it sounds like you have a horrible menu.
Yeah. Very weird.
A hot cherry salad.
And then we get like 30 minutes of flashbacks from the first movie. Pretty much, they like show the entire backstory of Duane and Belial
Yeah,
again.
in case you didn't see.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think we watched that Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 that was
Oh,
like
I
30,
did think about that one.
40% just like clips from the first
Yeah,
movie.
when that flashback happened, I was like, oh man, this reminds me of that movie.
Yeah.
And then again, and Duane looks nothing like he looks old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Belial looks completely different, but these flashbacks, they look,
Well, also it's flashing back to the kid version.
one, yeah.
So, yeah.
So
It's a little bit different, but
yeah, and then the next thing that I remembered was this talk between Duane and Belial in the
yes.
garden shed.
That was
so
really creepy.
Yeah, like Dwayne's kind of torn because he's in this house of freaks, and he's like, "Well, I'm not a freak. I'm normal now," which is kind of a hard transition of they've been separated for a long time, and they conceivably came up with the plan together to kill all the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what changed after he fell out the window.
Now he just wants to love.
Well, also
Susan
Belial
and-
tried to kill him.
Right,
he
yeah.
actually did, and things were not great when they had that accident. But yeah, so Dwayne's telling Belial how he's like, because Belial has been, I guess, with Eve or whatever, they're dating or some shit. So
Yeah.
he's like, you have someone that you love now, so you can be here, and then I can go somewhere else and be normal.
As he walks up to be like, hey, buddy, I need to talk to you. They're holding hands.
Yeah.
And Eve has a human hand with pink painted
Yeah, she has.
fingernails.
Yeah, Her hand looks very normal, so that you can tell she's a woman, not like Belial's hands.
Right.
Yeah, which now have fingernails.
He had fingernails before.
Yeah, they
More
were-
distinct fingernails.
Yeah, they were like claws or something. But anyway, so then Duane's like basically explaining how he's in love with Susan, who's Granny Ruth's granddaughter. And he's like, oh, and I want to leave here with her and I'll be able to begin my life anew and, like not be a freak and blah, blah, blah. And Belial like just starts busting up laughing in his face. Like, it's so
Yeah.
mean. He's
I
just
thought
like,
this was awesome.
yeah.
This is the one scene where they actually put the actor who plays Duane.
Yeah.
They put him in a whole like Belial
Ah.
costume, so it's actually his face in there.
Wow.
That's why it looks. I don't know if you noticed, but it looks more like him in
Yeah.
that scene, and he's actually like laughing. It's real creepy looking.
It's terrifying, and then he laughs for a really long time.
It's
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
And then the movie kind of forgets that scene ever happened.
It's back to the reporter,
Yeah.
and they.
The reporter's at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the reporter has recruited this like camera guy.
Yeah, he's Artie.
Yeah. So basically, like
Photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a scene earlier where the reporter comes to the house and realizes Dwayne's there, like whatever.
Yeah.
So now we get to this like more interesting scene, I think, where
Well,
she's-
actually, I did like, though, when Duane was seen by the reporter, they pretend
yeah.
his name was Michael or whatever, and then he leaves. And as soon as the reporter leaves, Duane's like, did she recognize me? I don't know. Do you think she recognized me? Did she recognize me? Did you see my face? Did she recognize me? Did she recognize me? He literally says, did she recognize me? 11 times.
She would have said something. She didn't say something. I don't think she did.
But did she recognize me? Like,
And Grandma was like, she absolutely did.
yeah. I'm glad that Grandma Ruth is like no dummy compared to Duane.
Yeah.
She's like, she totally recognized you. She started acting all weird. Like, it was so obvious. So yeah.
So she comes back with her photographer friend and tells him to go in first and just like get a photo of Belial.
Well, I think that the thing that happens first is, before any of that, is that Duane decides, like, he's like, well, I can leave. We'll leave. And then she's like, no, they're going to come here, and then they'll find the other freaks. And then it's like, no, I'll stay and I'll fight.
Oh, right.
And then Grandma.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so then they go. So like now they're saying, okay, now like it's us versus the reporter.
She's like,
type
it'll
of
be
thing.
like the good old days.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
And then so they head to the danger room. I mean, the basement. And they go. There's like a secret lever that takes them to the secret elevator. And Grandma Ruth's in like a
They're doing like a fraternity
yeah,
ceremony.
Yeah.
she's like
Like in a graduation robe with like,
yeah, but it looks like it's like a religious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird.
And then she goes into the basement with all the freaks, and then overacts her fucking
Yeah.
brain out in terms of this speech of like, they're coming to take our shit, and we're not gonna let them. We're gonna stay here and fight.
Yeah, and they're all like, "Rah!"
And then so that whole thing happens, and she's like, yeah, so what's gonna happen is someone she knows is gonna try to get into the house. I say we let them.
Right, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and then it cuts to like, go, hey, Artie, go inside.
Yes.
By the way, there's already been a couple times where Duane's tried to convince Susan to run away, and she's like, no, we belong here. Like, I want to stay here. I belong here with all these freaks. And he's like, no, we don't belong here. And she's like, yes, I do. And he doesn't listen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's important to know. Artie comes in and goes to the basement.
Well, what she says is,
Or the attic,
What she
rather.
says
It's
first
the
is
attic,
like,
yeah.
hey, don't go in the house. All you need to do is get a photo of Duane. Get one photo of Duane, then I can get us back in there, and like, don't do anything stupid. And he's like, I got you, baby. He's another toxic.
I'm good
Like,
at
like,
this.
like he was super creepy and awful.
Yeah.
And so he gets in, and then what happens is Grandma Ruth and Susan leave because they're trying to bait him in, and then Duane's having this long fake conversation, like I guess just knowing that he's gonna be there.
Yeah, he's upstairs in the attic right now.
Yeah.
He's not feeling very good, so I doubt he'll be very strong.
Yeah, on the phone. This is a fake on the phone.
Yeah, it's a fake phone conversation with this and the reporter. And the reporter could have just taken the photo. Like what the reporters are at. Like we're not going to tell the editor this story could make our entire career.
Yeah, like we're gonna go beyond Judge and Jury and go to People Magazine.
This is People Magazine money. And so he could have just snapped the photo and got out of there. But art is greedy, and in a horror movie, you know what that
falls
gets,
for
what
the
that
trap.
gets you. Yeah, gets you up in the attic.
He goes up to the attic, and it's like really dark, and he hears something and snaps a photo.
This scene is weirdly cool. I
thought
guess,
it was
and
pretty
how it's
cool.
done. Yeah,
Very cool. he snaps a photo and he's like sees all the freaks standing there for a split second and he's like, huh? What? He takes another photo and they're like close to her.
Yeah, he keeps putting the flash, and each time they're closer.
And then instead of running,
Yeah.
he's just sitting there like, just taking a bunch of photos.
Yeah, and then once he drops the camera, one of the freaks picks up the
Yeah.
camera
Yeah.
and starts taking it so that you can have this awesome scene where
Strobe
it's
light murder, yeah.
strobe flashing thing. Also, I love that like Belial's like the strong man in this group. Like no
Yeah.
one else does any murdering or
Yeah,
anything.
no one's really that murderous. They just kind of stand around and scare the
Yeah,
other people, and Belial
has,
does
like,
all the
He
murdering.
has a bloodlust or something.
Yeah. He always has.
He's
so.
already crossed that threshold.
That's true.
I think that the thing that bothered me most about this movie, if the main gripe I have with this movie, is that Belial in the first one could kill dudes instantaneously, rip their faces off, and like in this movie, it takes some effort. Like,
Well, the first movie, his murder scenes were really long too. That's what Eliz was saying. Like it's just
Yeah.
like he's touching their face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like he ripped them off in 1 second.
he did kill them quicker.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It takes him a long time to kill.
I think it's
everybody in this movie.
about the same, honestly. Those scenes in the first movie were long, where it's just like him on their face going,
Yeah.
It's like the same thing.
So, but Marcy escapes. She's like, oh, he's dead. I'm leaving. Bye.
Yeah.
And then she enlists like another reporter to help her.
Private
right?
detective.
Private
Oh, yeah.
detective. Okay.
Private detective
Phil.
that the editor suggested to her earlier in the movie.
Yeah. And so this guy sets up a meeting with Duane at a bar.
This is my favorite scene.
Yeah.
I love Duane in this movie too. He's like being really weird this entire movie.
He doesn't know what he like. At one point, he wants to be normal, and then he's acting like a crazy person.
Yeah, he's like really like he seems way more psychotic in this movie
Yeah.
than
Oh,
he
yeah.
did in the last
Ooh,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, he's like mastermind behind all these like traps that they're setting up
Right.
and stuff. It's kind of cool. I thought he did a great job in this movie.
Yeah, like he's doubting. Like it seems like he doesn't want to do it for right up until the reporter comes, and he's like, "Well, then we're gonna have to stay and fight." And then
Yeah.
like he's all in at that point. Like no regrets, nothing.
Yeah, so they the private eye guy comes in to this bar and meets
Yeah.
up with Duane, and Duane's like, I bought you a beer. And
Yeah.
they're like, being all normal. And they're just talking about how like, we're just two normal guys. Like you can be normal. We can get
Yeah.
you out of here. And he was trying to talk about Belial as being normal too. Like,
Yeah.
like, we can save him. Did I say he was a freak? I didn't say he was a freak.
Yeah,
And then like when you walk in, everything looks normal. It's like people, right?
yeah.
And then all of a sudden Duane's like, well, do you think that, we would be normal in a place where there's more freaks or something? Like, why don't we take a poll in this bar and see what people think if we're the normal ones? And there's this amazing scene where he's like, okay, the PI's like, okay, fine, whatever. And then it's like, everyone's turned around and all of a sudden, like all the people there are freaks and they all have this weird, like, just like the fakest looking human masks.
flesh-colored mannequin masks that do not cover up their crazy bulky face or anything like that.
It's like, why bother?
But the fact that he walked in and thought they were all people, and they clearly...
hey, they are
okay,
people.
yeah, but like normal people. No,
How dare you? God.
We get a
non-deformed people.
we get a unique individuals.
Yes, there you go.
And we get a shot just like everything in this movie because I think they had so much work in putting this prosthetics. There's lots of shots where it's just cutting to every unique individual.
Yeah.
And so we get to see all of them take off their masks and like close-ups. Every single one of them.
It's so funny because it's just like it's so absurd. The fact that
Like, cut, mask removal.
yeah.
Mask removal.
And
cut,
so then
mask
Duane's
removal.
like, we're going to take a poll. All right. So who here thinks that me and Mr. What's your name again? And the guy goes, what the hell is going on here? He's like,
Yeah.
all right, who here thinks me and Mr. What the hell is going on here are the normal ones? Raise your hand. It's like, oh, God.
I like the PI's reaction. He's like, "Oh fuck this," and he's like pulls out a gun. He's
Yeah.
like, "This is not happening to
And
me."
he's like, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Just let me leave. Yeah.
Yeah, this scene is really great. It's hilarious with the mask reveals, and then Duane is just being like full psychopath in
Yeah.
this one. And for some reason, instead of shooting people, the PI tries to go in the back closet or something. And
Yeah,
guess
he tries to
who's
go out the back door,
there?
and there turns out gets a face full of Belial.
Belial's there, and he dies.
Yeah.
PI guy dead.
Oh, he gets
But
like
there's
half his face ripped off. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
He has like exposed to like skull.
And there's a cool shot too where he does fire his gun and you see the freaks on the other side of the door and the bullet holes come like
Yeah.
And they're like,
the light's like shooting through. It's a cool shot there.
So to wrap it up, they're like, we got to go kill that reporter, Marcy, who lives in Flushing. And Grandma Ruth's like, ugh, figures.
I was like, damn.
And we get a prolonged hair drying and cigarette smoking scene.
Was the hair drying prolonged though? She would like turn it on for like 2 seconds and then it's like, I'm done.
That's what I mean. Like she would turn it on, like start blow drying her hair, then stop, and then return to it.
I was like, your hair's not dry yet. Go ahead, keep going a bit. Yeah.
Also, ashtray in the bathroom,
Ugh.
which is.
I like this though. She was freaking out. Like someone calls her twice and just hangs up.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, she knows that the private eye guy, and like the private eye guy, even how he gets Duane to come out to the bar is like he seems like a professional. Like he seems like he's in complete control of that situation, and like not somebody that you'd fuck with. So
Right.
like her being worried that you're not hearing from him. It's like you can tell that like that's not the type of guy who doesn't check in. So she knows something has gone wrong.
And she comes back and sees that someone has broken into her window.
That's correct.
And then turns around and Duane's in her apartment.
Yep.
And then we get another reveal where we get a shot of every single freak being in the apartment.
And I love Duane in this, and she's like, what? Like my brother really wants to meet you. She's like, I don't want to do an interview right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's just so unprofessional. Like, where could he be?
Oh, he's not in. Because she opens the basket, and he's like not in there, and he's like, oh, I already let him out, but I don't know where he went.
Yeah, and they're playing this whole
He's
thing.
just like so great in this movie.
Yeah. And like, it's like, like, where could he be? Like, he wants to see you. These are all my friends, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so it's just like there's all this tension building to like, oh, where's he gonna be? Like, what's gonna be this clever way? And then she just has another wicker basket.
She has like a wicker ottoman basket
but
thing.
He gets to go, what's in the basket?
Yeah.
Why does she go look in there?
Because all the other freaks are around her. She has nowhere to go.
She has a knife out, but like I just love the idea that this whole scene is building to like it's almost genius in terms of what a letdown and what like it's just so great of where's he gonna be? Oh, another basket.
He just loves wicker baskets.
It's like it's a metaphor for sequels.
Yeah. No, they didn't give him like an upgraded basket this movie.
Well, they did give he did have, like at the beginning of the movie. They're like, oh, like I heard that you like to sleep in baskets. Will this do? And it's the exact same basket. But like, I love the idea of Susie having to go to the wicker store to get a like. How'd you have like a
basket with a clasp on it? Yeah.
So Marcy meets her untimely end.
This was great. Like, so
this was cool. I wish she had done this to everybody.
Yeah,
honestly,
you think that like she's gonna fight him off a little bit, but she drops the knife real quick.
Yeah.
And then like falls to the ground, and then it's over, and you see everyone looking, like all the freaks staring over her along with Duane, and Duane's like, gosh, Marcy, you should really look at yourself. You're one of us now. And then it like shows what she looks like, and her face is like twisted.
Yeah,
upwards.
he like pulled.
It's
like,
real gross.
Yeah.
But she's like still kind of alive or something.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought that was so cool and creepy. Like,
well, and then
the way
it
he
cuts.
said that.
And then it cuts to them like all celebrating at a table afterwards. And I thought that she was going to be there.
I thought that she was going to actually
was like
join
a
them,
freak
but
out,
no,
yeah.
she didn't.
Yeah.
Of her injuries.
We get to the fun corn cob scene.
wait, before we leave Marcy forever, I have like a weird deep dive on this because I love The Greatest Showman, and that movie also has a bunch of freaks, right? Yeah. And P.T. Barnum's real life early career was actually kind of like that creepy guy with the fake freaks, right? He did a lot of that kind of stuff. But this actress, Marcy, Catherine Maisel, she actually plays Charity Barnum's mom in The Greatest Showman. So she plays Michelle Williams' mom. Nice. So this lady just hates freaks.
Yeah.
She really hates them.
She once was one herself.
Yeah. So
That's
20
really
years
funny.
later, she was like, I got to be in another movie where I'm discriminating against deformed people. So
Oh, that's great. Then we get this like fun celebration scene.
Chili cook-off at the Xavier Mansion.
Chili Con Carnival.
Where Aunt Ruth is like, or Granny Ruth is like, how many hot dogs have you had? Is that your fourth?
The whole time she's like, "There's enough food. Everybody, please eat." It's just.
Did you get your soda?
It's just ADR. Like the only dialogue because they can't talk. It's just them making eating noises and shoving things in their various holes.
It's
and
so
she'd be like,
gross.
"Did you get enough? Have some more. Like everybody have a good time." It's really off-putting.
It's like the
strange.
celebration after your soccer team won.
Yeah.
Like, Little League thing.
It's like, we killed those journalists.
Woo!
A frog boy eats like fish out of a fish bowl or something
so
like that,
weird.
and I'm like, just because he's a frog, he has to like eat different food.
And
He's still part boy.
Even the gargoyle.
Yeah, is in the party.
Oh, speaking of frog boys, should we dive into
First,
our...
I need to tell like an old family legend of mine. So my family's from Puerto Rico, and back in the day, I guess my grandmother, my abuela, lived there. And when somebody would have a baby, like all the women in the small village would come and help with the birth and whatnot, typical small village stuff. So apparently, one time, and my grandma told this story for my entire life, as long as I remember, she's been telling this weird story. So one time they all went and a woman gave birth to a frog, supposedly. Okay. And this story is like so well known in my family because this lady, it's like the woman who gave birth to a frog, and it was like a frog baby. Apparently it was like green in tint and deformed, and really it was probably just like a deformed baby. But this legend like lived on forever. And so when I saw Frog Boy, I was like, oh my God, it's the boy that turned into a frog. I gotta tell my dad. Oh my God. So I'm assuming he was from Puerto Rico. He lived after all. Anyways, and then
That
Child
one
Star,
was not a costume.
Yeah.
yeah, Child Star Chicken. For some reason,
Tadpole chicken.
the actor that played Frog Boy, even though he's pretty much the same size as everybody else, they've actually got a 10-year-old boy to be Frog Boy.
What?
And that 10-year-old boy is Tom Franco, who is the middle brother of James and Dave Franco.
What?
James is the oldest, so he was already starting and acting, and I guess Tom was kind of like, all right, I'll see if I, feel like doing this. And so Basket Case was his first role. He played Frog Boy, the only child actor, even though everybody else was an adult.
That
He was
is weird.
10 years old.
That's bananas.
Yeah, and
I didn't even know there was another Frank.
yeah, there's a middle Franco. And then I think he did bit parts in 2 other movies, and then one day he took a ceramics class, and both of their parents are artists, fine artists.
Yeah.
He took a ceramics class and fell so in love, he was like, I don't want to act. And so he became like a famous ceramic artist, not a ceramicist. I don't know, whatever. He does ceramic art.
Sculptor, right?
Sculptor, yeah. And he has a whole like I don't know.
A great ceramicist.
He has a whole like art collective in San Francisco, and he's like a well-known modern artist, I guess. And he's the one that like when James Franco goes crazy and does those weird art exhibits, he does it like together with him.
That's
And
cool.
Since then, he has been in Spring Breakers and Disaster Artist and like bit parts or whatever, and he's the other Franco. He takes pleasure in being the cool, chill one that's not famous.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But he was in Basket Case too.
That's nuts.
Frog Boy.
It was so funny because when I saw in the credits, I was like, "Oh, Tom Franco, haha! I wonder if he's related to James Franco." And then I'm like, "Holy shit!" Like when I looked it up, and he was actually a kid.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
Yeah. So
As
there
I've
you
said
go.
Before.
That is your Child Star check-in for
Insane.
Basket Case 2.
Frog Boy. That's nuts.
So, as everyone's celebrating, Susan's like, but I'm worried about Duane. And Grandma Ruth's like, yeah, me too. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to go put on a sweater. Bye. And so she goes upstairs, and then Duane is in her room, and she's kind of freaked out by this.
If you didn't think this movie could get any crazier, you would be wrong.
You would be wrong.
Yeah. If you thought it was over, nope.
They're saving
And
the
so-
best for
And
last.
so she's like, Duane, what are you doing? And he goes, I couldn't sleep, which is like, everybody's awake at a party. You fucking crazy. And then at the same time, Belial's been left with Eve.
Oh yeah, so he's got
they-
some
they were like,
alone
gonna-
time.
So he
Give them
could
some
rest
alone
up after
time.
all that killing.
Well, yeah, and they wanted them to be alone for,
Yeah.
for once.
Oh god. Even getting close to talking about this, I'm like, okay.
So gross. Yeah, so Duane is like trying to put the moves on Susan, like, I love you, like, we can go be normal, we're the same, or
And
whatever.
she keeps saying the same thing she's been saying the entire time because she's a human person with agency.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to stay here.
Yeah.
Because, I belong here. I'm like everyone else here.
Yeah, but he's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And they start making out. And then she's like, oh, wait, I got to tell you something.
Well, yeah, but I was gonna say, like, at the same time, we finally get to see fully what Eve is.
Yeah.
And it basically looks like her face, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought where this was going.
Me too.
I thought that it was like she also had a Belial one.
Right. That's what I think they're trying to set up for you to think.
Because
that.
Eve has pretty much like a full woman face, but her body's like similar to Belial, except that she has like legs too sticking out, like little feet.
So you're thinking, she's also a
Yeah,
Siamese
because
twin.
like they're both getting amorous, and it's like, oh, it's a psychic connection here. That's what's happening.
And she's like, so they're on the bed, like, she's like, I just need to tell you, I've been with only one man.
Or I've been with a man before, and he's like, dude, I don't care.
And he's
It's
like,
the
it doesn't
90s.
matter. And she's like, but it made me learn something about myself. And he's like, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, I don't care. And she's like, well, I'm pregnant. And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I've been pregnant for 6 years. He just doesn't want to come out. And he's like, huh? Like any man would be like, wait, what?
She's like, we tried to take it out, but it wouldn't come out, so
He's
we just
just
left
not
it
ready.
in there.
Yeah.
And then a sandworm comes out of her tummy.
Yep.
And it's like, it's like a puppet hand with teeth and crazy.
It looks like the thing from Empire Strikes Back that the Millennium Falcon gets stuck into.
And she's like, oh, look, here he is. And Duane is like freaking the fuck out. Like,
Even though she told him the entire time that she was a freak, Duane has lived this life, and he still judges this girl.
Well, and
he just
Duane,
wants to be normal.
And Duane was doubting wanting to be normal.
Yeah.
That was his first half of this movie after he gets out. Then decides, fuck it, I'm a freak. I'm going to stay here and fight. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Then
he's like, no, we can be normal.
Then we can be normal. And then freaks the fuck out.
Yeah. Oh, you're a freak. Now I don't want to. And she's even like, don't do this to me. Like that. She's like devastated that he's rejecting her, which is sad. Like,
so they get in a tussle, and how this starts cutting back and forth between Duane's interaction with Susan and her
Belial,
Sam's tummy, and Belial and Eve's
straight up
hardcore.
They are going at it.
Like they're fucking.
Yeah.
he like mounts her from behind, and
they're-
So apparently he does have a dick. I don't know.
and like there's all these.
I was
shots
watching
of like the hands caressing and grabbing like different lumps and
Yeah.
like nodules like
It's
on
so
the like
sick.
it's like. And then part of me was like, I bet you. I it's not a direct relation, but A, I bet you Guillermo del Toro loves this scene, and B, like it's kind of what he did in Shape of Water. It's like they just go for it. It's like they're, but it's like and it's also like the sound is just porno shit.
Yeah, I was watching it alone in my apartment, and I'm like, I'm gonna turn this down.
it's like a character that's never really made human like noises is all of a sudden like making human sex noises that are recorded from a porn.
It's intense. So
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, okay, volume
and
down.
so it keeps cutting back to them like lump fucking, and then Duane and Susan like fighting, and then he's like, don't do this.
And he's like, get away from me. And she's like, she's just trying to be like, don't reject me for
like,
this.
this
Like,
is normal. Yeah.
I tried to tell you. And he's even like, she warned me or whatever. But yeah.
And she's like, I did. And then he pushes her out the window.
Yeah, but not before it cuts back to the party, and Granny Ruth is like, where's Susan? And then she comes crashing out the window.
Right onto the picnic table.
Yeah.
And we've established too that all these freaks like love Susan.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
been taking care of them, and
gets
she treats
crushes.
them like
Right.
she's like they're totally normal. So yeah.
Yeah, so they're all sad. Although she doesn't break the table, and they survived a way worse fall
Yeah.
earlier in this movie. Like she's just like instantly dead.
And then they're like, go find who did this.
Yeah, go find Duane. And then like this, we get a whole thing of freak hide and seek. And,
Yeah, the Benny Hill starts playing.
Oh, yeah. They're running around the house like,
Yeah.
and then Duane is acting real crazy.
oh yeah, this is where
Yeah, he breaks. You could see he's having a psychotic
this
break.
is where he starts to be like, yeah, she told me she was a freak.
Yeah.
She warned me. I knew. I should have known. He's like
So-
talking to himself.
So then he rips off his shirt and grabs a baseball bat, like
And-
all fragile.
Well, he
men
like
do.
he like runs into that doll room and
Yeah.
starts rummaging around in the toy chest, and he's like, "Aha!" And
He's
it's
like,
a
"I know
baseball
how to
bat.
fix this."
I'm like, why wouldn't you go like to the kitchen or the garage where you could actually get like a weapon?
Yeah.
But anyway,
And he goes up to interrupt the coitus upstairs. And he's like, "Hey, Belial." Boom. Bats him on the head.
Yeah.
And
runs back into the toy room where he gets a child's knitting set.
yeah, but like an oversized child.
Yeah, with a
like
large
craft
giant's
yarn.
I think
you know,
mean a
like-
giant's knitting set.
Yeah.
The needle was like,
the knife-
as long as his arm.
Yeah, well, that's how knitting is. The bigger the needle, like the more
Yeah.
novice it is.
So yeah, he goes where you think this
He
is going.
decides that like the only way to fix this is to put them back together. And he really grossly
It's a really violent sewing scene.
It's gross, and
Yeah.
Belial's like pissed and not down.
yeah, he's freaking out, and there's spraying blood all over the dolls.
Yeah.
And then Granny Ruth and the freaks come up, and they find him. Now they're reattached completely. It looks like their skin has come back together.
Yeah.
And Duane is just laughing, and then it like fades.
He's just like, we're together now.
Yeah, and it fades to black on him, his like insane laughter as the credits start rolling. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa, that is a fucked up ending for this movie."
It's messed up. But he didn't like cut his skin and Belial's skin before doing the sewing. So really, all you have to do is get like a seam ripper, rip
Yeah.
out the yarn, and be like, all right, they're fine now. Let's put some Band-Aids on those holes.
Well, and also, like, Belial could have just killed him.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean-
he was knocked out.
Yeah.
That's
Kinda.
true. That's true. I don't know. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It looked really cool too at the end.
But it was a crazy ending. It's
just-
definitely like one of those things that probably like
It's like a shocking image.
you
at the
always
end.
like after the first movie, if you sat around thinking about it, you'd be like, oh, like a cool thing would be reattaching them, like, and
Yeah.
so then he goes through with it.
Yeah. So that's the end of the movie.
So, how many baked salads would you give Basket Case 2?
I'm gonna give Basket Case 2 7.
Ooh.
7 baked salads with
That's
a,
a lot of
with a
that's
cherry on top.
That's a lot of hot cherries.
Because I had a lot of fun with this one. I think I liked it. I think I liked it just about as much as the first one, but I want to give this like one more point because of all the crazy prosthetics and effects and stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
Just that I was not expecting. I thought that was really awesome. And I love that, like, there's a deeper conversation again about this movie to have between like, judging someone as a freak or what's normal. And,
Yeah.
and they kind of dive into that in this movie too. And I like that it was, not just there for the gore and horror. There's also
Right.
like something to say
Yeah,
about
it's crazy
society
how they
that-
keep doing that. It's like this insane movie, but
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, yeah,
There's
like
some good, some good points in there
Yeah,
about like
how we
accepting
treat people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I had a lot of fun with this one. I was not expecting it to be any good, and I was like, wow, this is great.
I'm gonna give it 6 baked salads, which is what I gave Basket Case 1 because I did think this one was really fun, and like so that would like be an up point for me. But then it kind of like just evens out because I still like did not like the new design of Belial. Like I don't know, I thought everybody else was great, but I really hated like how Belial looked. I don't know what it is, and I think maybe because it was more animatronic, it looked more stilted to me. I don't know.
He looked drastically different.
Yeah, I just really.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I just thought it looked
I
cool.
didn't. He looked like plasticky, whereas before he looked more like real skin. Like I don't know. I think, but I thought all the other unique individuals were great. So yeah, same 6.
I'm going to give it a 6 as well. It's the same thing I gave Basket Case 1. I think I might have had more fun watching this movie. I really love how it kind of went for it. The inconsistencies with Duane kind of like weird. Like I'm just like, what the fuck do you want, dude?
Yeah.
Like that kind of got in the way of my enjoyment of it, I guess. But I love how crazy it is. And there was multiple times where I was just like, what is happening? And there is a moment where like it's aware of itself and like there's something. I think it's kind of similar to Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, where like there's funny parts of Evil Dead, but Evil Dead 2 is really a horror comedy in a way. And it's that self-awareness that kind of makes it great. And I think that there's a little bit of that here of kind of owning up, of like kind of embracing some of the stuff that could have possibly been accidentally funny in the first one and kind of getting into it. And I think a line that kind of shows that is when the reporter sees Duane at the house for the first time, she's going back telling Artie, he's like, oh, was the brother there? And he's like, no, but you know it was a big fucking wicker basket. It's like a big fucking wicker basket. Like, you know what that means. And I think that is...
Sounds like we have a basket case at our hands.
It's something that made it so enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fun one.
So what's up next?
Up next, we have Basket Case 3, The Progeny. So
how many years later?
This is 1991.
So
directly afterwards.
Yeah, very quick afterwards. And if we can say anything about the title, based on the events of this film, there must be some...
There's a reason it came out probably 9 months later.
Belial babies, yeah. I'm guessing there's Belial babies.
For sure. I gotta say, I sort of, weirdly, I didn't think that it would get to this point after the first one, but I'm kind of done with Duane. Like, I wouldn't mind if Duane exits and dies from his knitting needle injuries, and we just kind of move on with Belial and maybe some of these other characters.
I thought he was good in this movie. I liked what he was doing. So I'm interested to see how they work him back in and...
Yeah, I wonder if they're just immediately separated again.
Yeah, I mean, at least this one ended with them alive and together, so they could continue that story right away if they want. Figuring that shit out. Like, I'm sure Belial does not want to be in that situation anymore. He's found love.
With Eve, I was like, oh, gross. Why does she have these gross feet? And then I'm like, oh, she has feet so that they can imply that she's got a vag. And so apparently she's also going to have a uterus and, whatever else is necessary to make a baby.
Yep.
It's going to be gross.
That means Belial not only has a dick, but he also has balls in there somewhere.
Yeah, he's going to be gross, fertile. You guys. It's going to be gross. I have a feeling. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's just going to start with a live birth scene.
It might. Yeah. It might. Oh, that's going to be so gross.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the last of the basket cases. But we're going to be talking about that next week. In the meantime, Eliz, where can people keep in touch with us?
Yeah, so we're close to finishing Basket Case, so please email us your ideas for future franchises and any other questions you might have. sequelrights@gmail.com. And check us out on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sequel Rights.
And please rate and review us on iTunes. Leave us your best recipes for baked salads. And give us your insights on sideshow mentalities.
Yes, and I'd like to thank my brother for the music at the top of the show. It's always great every time I press play.
Yeah.
Bringing us into the episode.
Brother.
I agree.
My brother.
Oh, yeah, your brother.
My detached brother. We need to be together again. Oh, gosh. Well, you know what? We'll see you guys next week for Basket Case 3, The Progeny.